Tribbios, the woman who started it all, the holy maiden of Yannisopolis. With the world shattering around her, she was the one person willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for a chance to save the dying world of Amphorius. Claiming the core flame of passage and splitting herself into 1,000 pieces, she became the very first demigod and tasked herself with leading humanity into a new age, walking the treacherous and painful path as an army of many, but comprised of one. This was the story of the very first flame chaser, and who we now know as Tribi, Trian, and Trina. And you know, sometimes I don't want to be right, but it ends up happening anyway. I wanted this not to be the case. I wanted Tribi to just be 3, but I ended up saying this. Then you remember that Tribi is implied to have split into more than 3 versions, and that is darker than I want to think about. Because that implication ended up being the truth, and unfortunately we have to talk about it now, and for some reason Hoyo just loves making stories where the cute short girl who is way older than she looks ends up watching multiple other versions of herself die. That's 3 times now, Hoyo. Anyway, with the new update right around the corner, I think it's only fitting that we talk about the new influx of info we got for our little quantum triplets. Good, because this is the first flame chaser explained. Okay, so let's start off with what we know so far. Well, we learned that there is more than one way to obtain a core flame, and just killing a titan is the hardest way. Tribi, for example, stole her core flame from the passage titan, and her abilities are rather strange. She builds rockets for fun, can open up portals, reads Kephales's prophecies, and can even perform miracles that break time. And as all over the place as her abilities are, the state of her was even worse because she split into 1,000 versions of herself that only seemed to come in 3 different variations. Those of course being the sociable Tribi, the spirited Trian, and the introverted Trinan. They also seem to take on roles like Tribi is the one performing the miracles, Trian opens up the portals, and Trinan reads the prophecies. I'm pretty sure they all share abilities, but they have their own specialties. The reason why I think this is because they can all share senses, which makes sense because they are all basically shards of the same person. But the problem is that this ability isn't conscious, and when they experience strong emotions, they tend to be shared anyway. Apparently Trinan read a sad story and she felt so bad that the others burst into tears with her even though they were in completely different areas. So do you know what I'm getting at here? Because this is why I said that Tribi's story is a lot darker than I wanted to think about. And brace yourself, this is gonna be bad. Because since there were thousands of her at first, when each and every single one of them died, all of the others felt it. Each and every single shard of Tribbios felt the fear, dread, pain, and loneliness of death for every fallen version. So in a battle scenario, which I'm sure has happened before, can you imagine the chain reaction? One dies, 999 cry out in pain, another falls, even louder cries. One by one they fall, unable to handle the combined emotions flooding their senses. Okay, so let's pause here because I need to emphasize how bad this is. Hoyo just made 997 dead Tribbies canon. Let that sink in. It doesn't matter how, but if there were at least 1,000 of them, and now there are 3, you do the math. Hoyo just hit this poor girl with the Akuma ultimate and said die 1,000 deaths. For no reason. What did poor little Tribi do? And what makes it worse is that all the remaining 3 felt every single one whether they wanted to or not. This is not clickbait, this is unthinkable, and it is incredibly sad. Okay, back to the video. And if you're wondering why there are only 3 left, now you have the answer. And you also have the answer to what Tribbi's flaw is. Because as Aglaia said, every Chrysos heir has a flaw. Her own is the slow and painful loss of her humanity. Castoris is either her death touch or the fact that her ability to quell souls literally kinda kills her. My Day can't die, which is also a double-edged sword, because in Hoyo games, immortality is never a good thing. And little Tribi feels what all of her sisters feel at the worst possible times. And this is even worse because Trian is flying the most classic death flag I have ever seen. Look, when a character does the eyes closed, smiling, head tilt as the last thing you see of them as they send you away, you're probably not gonna see them again. But according to my Emphorius doesn't exist theory, they're all dead anyway, so I have mixed feelings about this. Which on a different note brings me to my favorite ongoing theory that just continues to be proven right with each and every new releasing character. My in-game paths theory. A theory that states that every character has an in-game path and a lore path. A lore path being the faction affiliation and the in-game one representing a major aspect of their life, and I call that a type. For example, Aglaia is a remembrance type character because her goal is to save the world with golden threads, quite literally weaving together the world with golden threads of memories and truth, which just so happens to mirror what Fu Li does, since Fu Li's goal is to recreate the universe with memories after its destruction. That's the whole point of the Garden of Recollection. See the similarities there? The entire goal of the remembrance is woven into Aglaia's life, and this pattern has been repeated through many characters. So many that I made a series out of it, and it's right here. But back to Tribi. Why is Tribi harmony? Well, in order to look at that, we have to look at Xipe. And Xipe the harmony is more than the aspect of just being harmonious and at peace with things. It's more like assimilating others to harmonize with it. And as we know, Xipe the harmony assimilated the order into itself. And now the power of the order exists inside the path of the harmony. But that's not all of what Xipe does, because this Aeon is one of the more confusing ones. Because Xipe has the tendency to split herself into many versions, some of which are its own emanators. Yes, Xipe is its own emanator multiple times over. Don't ask, the harmony's weird. But it gets stranger, because Xipe, and I quote, is the amalgamation of thousands of entities that preach the joy of human harmony and unity. Which I'm now just realizing is kind of racist because there are way more than just humans out there. But that's besides the point. Point is, Xipe is multiple entities at once, which is further backed up by one of its names being Thousand-Faced Great One. But, where have we seen this before? Thousand Faces. Oh yeah, Sparkle, the other Harmony character. No, wait, this ain't about her. None other than our holy maiden of Yenisopolis, Tribbios, who just happens to split herself into 1,000 versions of herself, being many, but one at the same time. But it gets even better, because Xipe's other title is the one Sunday uses, Triple-Faced Soul. And this one is because Xipe is presented as having 3 faces, something that you cannot unsee now. Those aren't twin tails, those are bangs. And it just so happens that Tribi as we know her today has 3 remaining faces. And this is why Tribi is harmony. And I love it when Hoyo makes it all line up that easily. Additionally, that is also why Maide is destruction, because he quite literally destroys himself while fighting. And the path of destruction is the path of destroying everything, including the self. And Maide wants to purify his Kremnoan legacy through destruction in battle, which is Nanook's whole thing. Hoyo is making it too easy for your boy. Anyway, Maide will probably need his own video. So, back to Tribi. As we know, every flame chaser so far is an XP. So who is Tribi, right? Well, none other than the conductor, the great magician, the expert, the flavorful, the Kevin killer, the one looking down upon the stars, the pure evil of the Helix, and many others I'm probably missing, Vil V, the 5th of the Flame Chasers, who you can probably guess has her personality split into many different versions of herself that all share the same body. But just like Tribi, only 3 are normally active, them being the conductor, the magician, and the expert. Her main task wasn't really to fight, she was more involved in inventing things. And she just so happened to create nuclear bombs and various other weapons of mass destruction. And since Tribi uses bombs, let's talk about that one, because in a very unfortunate turn of events, Vil V's nukes got hacked by the Hersher of Corruption and ended up nuking what little life there was left on Earth. But in her defense, this wasn't her fault. This was one of the hers faults. So that's why I'm 90% sure that Tribi is a Vil VXP. I don't think there is anyone else who she could be, honestly. She's got that multiple personality thing, and she invents rockets of all things, so come on, who else could she be? I could also take this one step further and say that the magician is Tribi because miracles, the expert is Trian because making things, making portals, and Trinan is the conductor because she reads the prophecies which conduct all of our operations. And it just so happens that the expert was always the more overworked one than the others, which would be Trian in this situation. Anyway, so I've talked mostly about Tribi with some Aglaya and some Maide in there. It's only fair that Castrus gets a mention as well, right? For the record, I personally do agree with you guys that Castrus is a Griseo XP. That makes perfect sense. The Sela thing was just fun to think about and to consider, but let's be honest here. Griseo was a flame chaser that also has the gentle disposition, the twin tails in the back, the white dress with the flowers on it, and on top of all, she has her own summon called Mr. Knight that would be considered her memo sprite. That lines up so easily with Castrus, and to be honest, I was gonna make a video on that next, but you guys caught on too quick. So far, all of the Flame Chasers from Honkai Impact 3rd are mirrored perfectly with the Amphorius cast. We even have Fuhua now, who I am so excited to talk about as soon as we meet her. This video has been all over the place, but I wouldn't have it any other way for a Tribi video, since she is literally all over the place. But what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, y'all.